The branding partnership, I think, is a different kind of one. My college is a Toyota Academy, and Toyota brand, I think, about half a dozen of these across the UK. So there are certain standards laid down that you have to meet to be a Toyota Academy. But if you are, then Toyota actually equips the workshop and re-equips the workshop on a regular basis, provided that the standards that the company insists upon are actually met, and these are inspected quite rigorously on a regular basis. And if you slip beneath the standards, then the brand's taken off you, and all the benefits, of course, are taken off you correspondingly as well. And that has certainly happened to other centres. So you're on your toes because you know you have to live up to Toyota's standards. But again, that facility equipped by Toyota is available for us to use with other apprentices and adults as well who work in the motor vehicle industry. So that partnership is a branding partnership. Ryobi is a company in Carrickfergus which makes components for the car industry internationally, Japanese company. And a lecturer into industry placement led to the development of this particular partnership, where the company has actually purchased the time, the equivalent of half a lecture a week, to be based actually in the company and to deliver training on site in the company. So that's a different model again, where one of our staff is actually based in the company, paid for by the company in relation to the training requirements that have been identified jointly within the company itself. And the final example I want to give is one which I think illustrates what we should be aspiring to in a small way in Northern Ireland as well. The Schlumberger is a company in Monkstown which makes components for the oil industry, particularly the drilling equipment used in the oil industry. And again, a lecturer into industry placement led to the development of a particular training module for the staff in Schlumberger. And that model was delivered to the local workforce in Schlumberger. It was attended by some of Schlumberger's international staff from other plants around the world as well. And following the success of the delivery locally, the module developed by our lecturers was since incorporated into Schlumberger's world training program, and then delivered in places like Singapore, Shanghai, Houston, and back in Belfast again. So that partnership led to the incorporation of a locally devised training module into a world training program for Schlumberger. And you know, on reflection in relation to what that actually means for us here in Northern Ireland, I think we very often drop into statements about our aspirations, the fact that we want to be world class and we want to be recognised as world class. And sometimes I wonder, you know, what does that actually mean? And we trot it out so much that it becomes a kind of a cliche. But I think if you think about, and this is something I obviously was wanting to do for internal consumption purposes in the college, when you think about our involvement in this particular project, Schlumberger is a multinational company. It could go anywhere, literally anywhere in the world, to compile its training program. The fact that a module in its worldwide training program is a module devised by lecturers in Ballymena actually, I think, is a practical illustration of what Northern Ireland work, if you like, can aspire to in terms of being world class. Because if a company can go anywhere in the world and chooses something specifically, a product specifically developed within Northern Ireland, then I think that is an example where we can say, you know, Northern Ireland is delivering to world-class standards. And if it can be done, you know, in Ballymena, it can be done in Omagh, it can be done in Derry, it can be done in Lurgan, it can be done in any other part of Northern Ireland as well. And I think developing examples, and there are many other examples, and I think that's just one that I'm using. I think that is the way perhaps to demonstrate what we mean when we say we can be world class, rather than just trotting out the cliche, because it's the sort of thing that, you know, you're meant to say in these circumstances. And I can't pretend that that's original. I actually stole that from a colleague in England. You know us by the companies we keep. I'm very happy that our reputation in NRC is based on those companies and businesses who want to be associated with us, and I'm sure the other colleges would similarly have a list of companies and industries and businesses and say, yeah, you know, if they want to work with us in Southwest College or whatever, you know, that's good enough for us, and that's the way we'd like to build our reputation. So I unashamedly stole that from a colleague in England, to whom I'm going to give no credit whatever for actually doing. I think just a few quick areas, very, very quickly to finish off. I've been trying to give a positive view, I think, of where the colleges are in relation to working with business in Northern Ireland. Doesn't mean we've cracked this, doesn't mean we've met all the challenges that are going to be facing us in the next number of years. There are a number of things I think we still have to address. Working with SMEs, particularly as they dominate the local economy, is a very difficult thing to do. And I don't think any of us would sort of claim that we've actually cracked the communication process in terms of SMEs. I think we can, in terms of moving together as a sector, we can develop further in relation to the identification of specific college specialisms and the recognition of those around the sector, which means some of us will be giving up a little bit in relation to what we do so that other colleges can develop their specialisms. I think we particularly well, I don't know where that's gone, and it's beyond my technical capability to come back to that. But what I was just going to say in relation is that we're entering a very difficult position in Northern Ireland economically. We're very reliant on the public sector. We're worried about how the cuts are actually going to affect us here. There's a major political challenge facing Minister Kennedy and the rest of the executive, and that is how they respond to the cuts which they're going to have to incorporate in terms of the Northern Ireland budget. And what is going to emerge out of that in relation to coherent economic strategy is something I think I'm certainly looking for evidence of, because unless there is a coherent economic strategy to see us through the next 4 to 5 years, then the colleges, despite the fact that we may want to influence where things are going, are going to have to work within what priorities are set in relation to that economic strategy. So there's a major political challenge for us in Northern Ireland to know what the landscape is economically going forward so that we can continue the work that we've actually been doing and make sure that we're an active player in terms of economic development. But a major challenge awaits, I think, our local politicians, particularly with an election coming up next April to deal with as well, in terms of what emerges out of that. But I think in Northern Ireland we have to recognise our limitations. I mean, we're a small country. You know, we can't be world beaters in everything. We have to find our niche. We have to find what we're good at. We have to be confident in terms of what we're good at, and we have to be able to represent that internationally. We maybe have to take a chance, take a punt on where certain things are going to develop in relation to the local economy and put our resources, our research and development, our skills development resources actually behind that. But in relation to how we could sum up where Northern Ireland is, I thought about how to do that. You know, where do we stand at the minute? How best can we sum up and actually, you know, sum up our approach, the way we see things going forward? And rather than looking for a quotation from a politician or a local economist, I thought I would go to another very observant group of people in relation to where Northern Ireland actually sits in the world. It's actually the Northern Ireland football fans who have a very interesting and unique perspective on life, I think, and if you just look at how they articulate where we stand in relation to the world, I think, you know, just for a moment or two we can learn a thing or two. This is a chant that developed on the Windsor Park terraces a number of years ago. It's sort of around about the time where Northern Ireland went for 13 matches without scoring a goal. There was a tremendous revival after that, mind you, and suddenly all sorts of scalps were taken at Windsor Park. England were beaten, Spain were beaten, a number of other leading nations were beaten as well. But this chant sort of developed, and I think it does actually sum up a particular kind of attitude. And believe it or not, I used to be an English teacher, so deconstructing poetry, although maybe this is doesn't quite aspire to the realms of poetry, but deconstructing verse is something I used to do for a living, actually. So if we look at what it's saying here, and there's a degree of irony, of course, that I particularly appreciate in this. We're not Brazil, we're Northern Ireland. in Northern Ireland, in football terms, Northern Ireland can never aspire to the heights of Brazil. That's just reality. And in relation to the world economy, probably we're in a kind of similar position. And of course, this is repeated for emphasis. I was going to get people like Malachy there to perhaps to sing this for us, and Stephen, but on the grounds that this is being recorded and we're trying to create the best impression possible of Northern Ireland, I sort of retreated from that particular one. But so it loses something in terms of impact just in writing. Repeated for emphasis, but the last line I think really sums up the Northern Ireland attitude pretty well. But it's all the same to me. That's the note of defiance. That's the note of saying, well, we can do things well. We can see people off who come here thinking they've got a bigger reputation. We can develop things that are recognised as good practice. We can actually develop world-class skills. We can develop instances where the Northern Ireland FE sector can stand with, technical education anywhere in the world. We can identify these examples. I think the issue is not just to identify them, but to build on them. And I suppose the underlying question throughout everything I've been saying in relation to the theme of the conference is, can the greater use of technology, e-learning, blended learning, ICT, ILT, greater use of technology enable us to build on the foundations we've developed over the last number of years and be even more effective as colleges in terms of being drivers of the local economy? So thank you very much for listening to me.